Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the PayDestiny Podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Today's guest started her career really underpaid and quickly was fueled to make sure she was compensated exactly what she was worth, making six figures before she was 30 years old. I'm Adriana Herrera, the PayDestiny podcast host and the founder of PayDestiny, new software for women and underrepresented professionals to get a promotion, get a pay raise, and grow your career. Today, we have Amelia Martinez Holt. And let me tell you a little bit about her because you're going to really want to understand everything that she's accomplished and why she has really great insights to help you learn how to get promoted, get a pay raise, and reach your career goals. Amelia is a retired business lawyer who shot up the corporate ladder. Before the age of 30, she was working in C-suite executive positions for Fortune 100 companies. Over the course of her career, she closed $85 billion in transactions for companies like Bell South, which is AT&T, Ingram Micro, and MasterCard. She earned a reputation as a skilled negotiator for mega international transactions. Amelia decided to change her career and step away from her legal career to become the person that she had hoped would be alongside her as she was growing and going up the corporate ladder. Amelia is now a professional accredited coach by the International Coach Federation. She helps modern career people create the life of success they truly love and are excited to wake up to every day. She has coached over 2,000 professionals from 5 continents. She's a mother to 4 children, considers herself a foodie, loves to cook, and enjoys traveling the world with her kids. She currently lives in Miami. I want to give a big welcome to Amelia. Thank you, Amelia, for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for this invitation. It is my pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
I just want to dive right in so we can give our audience some context. Are you an employer, a decision maker who's made hiring and promotion and job offer decisions, or are you someone who's experienced these things from an employee side, or possibly both?
I would say possibly both, but that did not come until later on in my career. By the time that I got the opportunity to hire somebody else for one of these companies that I work in, all startups or law firms, I first had to go through the ring of fire myself, and got burned pretty bad at the very beginning, not knowing what negotiation entailed in the United States as I arrived.
That's right. And I'm excited to get into that. So let's just actually get right into what you just said. What was your first job in the United States, your professional job? And, what were you compensated? And if you want to share the actual earnings or maybe a range, and did you negotiate that compensation?
Well, actually, I came to the United States to study. And my very first job was pretty much on the ropes to completing my master's and getting my my bar certification and be admitted as a lawyer in the United States. And my first job came as a fluke, I would say. It came as an opportunity that presented itself between me arriving to the United States and starting my master's program. And I took it because I did not think that I was going to work until after. And actually, my idea was going back to my country where I had a job as an attorney. And when this opportunity presented itself, I remember I said to myself, let me see what my value in dollars is. Now, I came from a currency that it was a lot weaker. So any number sound fantastic without any experience to know how much you needed to pay for rent and the car and all of these other expenses, buying clothes to go to these corporate jobs, etc. So I did not think it twice. And I did get my first payment. And when I was offered the opportunity to work for this company, I jumped. I said yes. So I did not negotiate it title. I did not negotiate anything. It was just like a resounded yes. And it was not until the end of the month that I realized for some reason the math is not working.
Ugh.
I thought, I guess in my head, when they gave me the number in dollars, I immediately converted into my currency and I said, wow, it's a lot of money. But the life here was a lot more expensive than what I was comparing that with. So I jump in, and later on, I realized this is not enough money. And after inquiring a little bit around, I found out that I made even less than a secretary at the time. So for
Wow.
some reason, I have, I don't know if sometimes companies give you a low ball, thinking that you are going to negotiate, and I just left there. Or if it was intended that, me having no experience in the United States before,
Right.
then rent should be cheaper for me, or supermarket was going to charge me less, and therefore I should make less money. And that was my very first experience, and how I got heavily burned with my first salary in the United States. Yes.
Wow. So at what point did you say, okay, now I know that I'm not being paid even as much as an executive assistant or secretary in the United States. I'm coming to the US with a master's and having worked as an attorney in the Dominican Republic, and this is just not right. So, what was that moment where you're like, I have to make sure that I'm one, able to pay my bills, and two, being compensated the value of what I'm bringing to the table?
Yes. So I hear you saying that you're asking me at what moment did I realize how much I was worth and how much I should have been compensated. And the answer to that is that once I bite a bullet, I bite a bullet. And then I just go into my own mindset to find the gift. I believe that in every circumstance, as sour and as surprising as it might be at any moment, it has a gift if we look for it. So what in the moment I realized when I first said, okay, I think I made a bad deal. I did not negotiate at all. I didn't even know that was a thing. um, I need to look at something else. And that something else is okay, I'm getting experience. I got the opportunity. And this is not the end, this is just the beginning. And having that mindset allowed me to then look at what my expenses ought to be and how could I distribute my money. But to tell you the truth, I became a vegetarian. In those days, vegan didn't exist. And I did not have enough money at the end of my paycheck to buy cheese or to buy meat. And then I realized how expensive those things were. Mind you, that was back in the 1990s. And still, I thought it was really expensive. So I armed myself with soda crackers,
Wow.
cream cheese that lasted along, and rice and those Campbell soups, and made like vegetable rice and crackers every day. And even that, I said inside of me, you know what? It's a great opportunity for me to clean up my diet and to focus on learning how to cook rice. And then later on, I learned how to cook something else. So I use the power of my mind to see it as a stepping stone versus allowing myself to jump into the wagon of, oh, they took advantage of me, I'm a victim. And I think that that is, for me, was very important because it allowed me to start crafting ideas on how I was going to take the business of negotiating going forward. And I have to say that um, 2 years later, I had doubled my salary. And 4 years later, I have quadrupled my salary to a six-figure amount. And thereafter, I continue doubling. Like I never went for a short increase. I went for a big chunk increase. And part of it, I saw it as natural, given that I started so low. And the other part, I saw it as my techniques of negotiating for myself, as if it's negotiating for someone else, is working.
That's amazing. And I remember when we last spoke, I was so impressed by the outlook and attitude you had for a situation where so many people would just say, you know what, screw this, they're taking advantage of me, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go do something else. But you managed to find the good and the opportunity. I remember you were even sharing that you would do like fictitious shopping and go to the store, to Macy's, I think it was, that you were sharing, and get, try on the clothes that you like. And you said something that really stood out for me, where you said, I at the time didn't have the ability to buy those things, but when I knew I would have the ability, I didn't want it to be foreign to me, and I wanted it to feel natural. And that to me was just, it's a mindset. It's not something that everyone has. And it's, where did that come from?
I think that the power of the mind is something that when I was a teenager, my dad had a book. So you're asking, where does this mentality or mindset comes from? And when I was a teenager, my dad had a book that it was kind of, up on his library. So to me, that had an indicia, not for the kids. And it had to do with the power of the mind. And I picked it up one day that he was not in the house, and I kind of browsed through it, and I kind of understood some things, but most likely I didn't. But I realized that there was something that had to be discovered, that it was inside of my mind. So I have to say that many times before, I tried to use the power of creation and manifestation without knowing yet those words into existence. And what you're saying is really is true. I did not have any money to entertain myself. I mean, I didn't have money to complete, to have a full meal with all these things, much less to spend on entertainment. So what I did is that I went to Macy's and Burdine sometimes, but I like Macy's because it was nicer and more luxurious. And I went and touched fabrics. I tried dress my same size. I would combine them with shoes, and I would have the full-blown experience of owning something that in the world of Aristoteles, I didn't need. So I went, I spent my, leisure hours in the mall. I saw this kind of thing, smells all kind of perfumes, and went home like if I would have bought it. And I think that at some point, what happened is that when I was able to afford all those things that I have already looked into, I already knew where to look for it. I didn't need to look at the tax. I knew what I was going for because I saw it like, okay, I'm doing this ahead of time. And at the same time, I entertained myself. So that's one of the many things that I did. Another thing that I did, I went to Barnes and Nobles and sat down in one of their chairs and read a book. And it was my time to leave. I just leave the book there and left. So I found a way to continue entertaining myself, and I did not feel poor or that I lacked absolutely anything. I saw it as in the future, there's more to come.
There's more to come. I love it. In the future, there's more to come. Let's talk about that jump that you started to make from having that first career experience within the United States, and then starting to move up into different positions to where you even were able to negotiate at getting your schooling within the United States paid by one of your employers. So share a little bit about how that conversation went. And there's so many offers that are happening in the United States, especially now post-pandemic, that people are starting to hire. And unfortunately, women and underrepresented professionals, Latinas, Black women, Latinos, Black men, we're being lowballed in many
No
cases.
doubt.
Latinas are getting 55 cents to the dollar for what a white male is earning, but yet we're not negotiating those job offers.
Yes.
So how did you do that, and how would you recommend to someone else to think about that? Because I also know that people are afraid to negotiate job offers, because there's this story that happened over the last year where a woman tried to negotiate with the Rolling Stone after she got a job offer, and they retracted her job offer. So people
Yes.
are like, do I not do it? Do I do it? How do I do it? And you've done it
Yes.
successfully time and time again. So we want to
Yes.
hear, how did that happen?
Yes, how to negotiate an offer. I think that the very first time when I say yes right away, it kind of represents what you were talking about, when sometimes we take the job for any reason, thinking the alternative, it would be worse. So yes, and you jump on it. And for that one, like I say, it is a matter of a strategy. Okay, I'm taking it now. I'm crawling in, and now how I'm going to run and hit the ground running, so that the next opportunity that shows up, I can negotiate. Now, when you are at that level where you go into a job and you want to negotiate versus I need to take whatever it is, which is a different part of the Maslow scale of needs.
Right.
I would say that I the way I did it is I assumed that I was the lowest person, that the lowest offer that they were going to put out, it was going to be mine. So it
Hmm.
was my time to negotiate. And today, the way to do it was by testing the waters. And I would always say something like, is there room for negotiation? And I
Hmm.
would pay very close attention to the no's, to the maybes, or to the there might be some room. If I so happened to bump into a no that was believable, I would say, well, I don't mean on the salary, I mean on the other perks. And I would find a way that even if salary per se was not negotiable, that I could go into the negotiation table from another door, whether it's in shares, whether it's more paid vacation, whether it's a sign up bonus, whatever it is that I could get from the company, whether it's gas, whether it's help for paying for career professional growth and certificates and schooling. That is another route for us. So not necessarily need to be in dollars amount to my salary to be part of the equation and to bring that disparity and that gap closer to what I assume everybody else was making. So whenever I got an offer thereafter, I assumed they were offering me 50% of what they were really willing to pay to their best candidate.
Wow. And so when you made those assumptions, how far from the baseline offer where you started to where you ended up did you see yourself going? And did you end up?
Yes, absolutely. So how far down the rabbit hole of negotiation do I go? It is infinite, and the way I thought is, after I felt like I finished negotiating, I would negotiate some more. I negotiate until I see them just like rolling their eyes, sweating, not, just like almost withdrawing that offer from the table. And at that moment, then I came to a settlement, saying, okay, then it's okay. I'm still interested. I'm really excited to come. And that's another part that throughout the negotiation conversation, I make sure that I conveyed my interest, my excitement, because there's nothing more, I would say, disgrunting than having a candidate that you show up with perhaps is the best of the offers. I don't know that. I would assume it's not, but let's say that perhaps, and then be met with some resistance, like you're mistreating them. So the conversation and the negotiation needs to be needs to flow in a way that the other person feels validated, understood, and appreciated for their efforts. I think that's also very important part of any negotiation. Yes.
It's a delicate balance. As an employer, I always want to see someone negotiate to see, what they're going to do also on the job. But at the same time, there are people who I've seen come in with an air of entitlement. And
Yes.
there's a delicate balance between being excited and pushing the envelope, advocating for yourself, and showing some of that ambition and perseverance that you're going to bring to the table, and just being entitled and sometimes just a jerk about what you're going to make. And I think in those cases, it's definitely the tactic and the reinforcement of, like you're saying, is showing your excitement, validating the offers, validating what's being brought to the table. But then what is the trigger point for you where you say, okay, this is for sure enough? You said a little bit about like rolling the eyes where you're watching people do that, but what are some other visuals where someone might say, can I push this just a little bit further without getting to that, hey, you know what, you're not the right fit for us?
Yes. So you're asking, what is that threshold? What is that um, that that communicates to me or informs me enough? Just like, here's the offer. This is what you want. And you just said something very important. You mentioned the word entitlement. And I would like to suggest that entitlement and negotiation are two different animals and they're not compatible.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that you feel entitled to anything, then your ego comes to the table. And once your ego comes to the table, your own inner wisdom goes out the other. So if we think this is what I deserve versus this is the value that I bring to the company, this is what I am willing to do for you. I'm here to help you. And to help you, I am going to need these things that correlate to that help. That way you're happy and I'm happy. That is completely different than, you hire me and this is how much you need to pay me or else. I think that is to me, it's very clear difference. And at the same time, it's something that we need to cultivate and bring out for ourselves. It's just like that balance of riding bikes or rollerblading that nobody can really explain to you. But once you get it, you get it. And that is what it is. I have always felt extremely appreciative and grateful for any opportunity that comes my way. I know that many of us go to universities, many of us can have all of that hardcore information in our brain. So I won't be any better than another attorney or any better than another coach if I were to be measured that way. But it's the intangible, the soft skill, the ability to read through the lines. Like I used to tell my mom, I feel like I was born a cat. Just throw me and I'll fall on my four paws, my four steps. And I feel that when we dance with life that way, then we grasp opportunities that are meant for us or to propel us to where we want to go next. Because sometimes it's not the final place, it's only one stepping stone so that we can negotiate even a higher salary, a higher title, a higher level of command, and bring the culture, bring the women, bring the Latinas into an arena where we have been not taking or taken for granted, I would like to say, or almost like in an invisible force where we are there giving our best, and at the same time, the accolades go to other people and to other races and genders.
The disparity between the number of Latinas in the US and with college educations compared to what we're being paid, I mean, it's so large and it continues to grow. I'm interested in what you just said right now is, working and contributing and having those accolades going to other people who, fit a certain mold of corporate America. And I want to talk a little bit about your experiences with that as it pertains to you're climbing up the ladder. I mean, you reached the C-suite at a very young age at Fortune 100 companies. Not many people do this in their career, let alone a woman, an immigrant who came, who has her master's, her legal degree, was so underpaid and climbed the ranks. I mean, this is, one in a million, perhaps. And it really, there are so many other women like right behind you waiting for those opportunities. But yet these accolades continue to go to other people and they continue to be overlooked. So how did you make sure that your work was valued as yours and you were recognized for your work? Because you have an amazing reputation. You have these mega transactions, 85 billion internationally. And there is no doubt of who Amelia Martinez Holt is and what you have done. How can other women make sure that their work is also recognized and they're able to climb up as quickly as you have?
Yes, I believe that to get up the ladder of corporate America as Latinas, professional, we need to lead with service and think, how can I serve? How can I make this company better? How can I really make a mark, come here and leave a mark, make things different, become essential, become essential.
Become
And I
essential.
am absolutely, everywhere I go, I try to become essential, find that niche that is essential that I can provide. Um, and that is very easy to do because, believe it or not, Adriana, there's a lot more people in the corporations, and I've been in every single step of it. So I know that is there for the money or is there of what is in for me. So when you show the wanting for the company, for the team, for your boss to look good, that is something that is unique. And I would like to say that perhaps, and I think that maybe part of what I did was my good negotiation skills. Another part it would be my education, but there's an element of luck of that. And I think that maybe there's only 1% of us. In my case, it was 0.04% of all ABA approved attorneys that has achieved the position that I did when I did in the whole United States, 0.04%.
Wow.
And I think that in talking to other colleagues later on, I could see that what was in front of them, it's what's in for me. It's not how to become essential, but how you recognize me. Well, sometimes it doesn't even matter who takes the final credit. Honestly, at the end of the day, one day it will just be the same. For the time being, does not really matter. All that I care at the very beginning or in my career is that the people that matters to me, for which I am making these effort, for which I want to serve and be essential, can see me and can hear me. So it's not a white blanket for everybody, because as a society, I'm not going to say things that are not true. We're not there yet. We are getting there little by little. And like you say, there were many more Latinas behind me, but I saw myself getting on the shoulders of the ones who came before me, who had to jump even much more hurdles than the one that I was jumping. Another thing is education. Many times I went to dinner and everybody had mashed potato until one day I decided to ask for rice. And that was a piece of conversation in the moment. Later on, I realized that few dinners later, team dinners later, my boss ordered for all of us. And then he said, "Do you have rice?" And I know it wasn't for him, it was for me. So bringing that element of education, of letting them get to know you better, opening up a little bit with respect at their time, there's no rush, and feel that you are part of what matters in that moment, which is the success of the corporation, the success of the team, is really rewarding. So I
What
think that
you're
that makes a difference.
Yeah, what you're describing is interesting. Science, research, and data tells us that the most high performing companies, the companies on the S&P 500, are the ones that are most diverse. And it's not the companies that are made up of kinds of people, the older white men or the geeky engineers or, these stereotypes of people. It's the traits and attributes within people. And one of the traits that highlights how well a company will do is exactly what you just said. The idea of service, thinking about the team, not about the I, but about how the collective is going to reach that goal. Having those different backgrounds, just the example you gave of the mashed potatoes versus the rice. Everyone's ordering mashed potatoes because they had the same cultural background and upbringing. Your background and upbringing came from the background of eating rice, which I love because that's mine too. And that difference alone statistically shows on the S&P 500, companies will outperform in profits by 12% or more month over month because you have people with those attributes and those differences and those qualities to give. So it's really interesting to hear what you're describing because that is statistically shown for the companies that outperform year after year after year.
Yes, I totally agree. And I can say that I was part of companies that have outperformed year after year after year. I can tell you that there were many occasions where my level of a strategy or my solution did not came from the universities. It came from coming from a country that has problems with electricity, and you have to spend a few hours a day without electricity on any normal given day. It came from a culture that has a lot of the ingredients that in our mind, there's some pathways that open to more possibilities, different kind of solutions, more robust strategies that are not necessarily um, available to first world countries.
It creates innovation. You
It
experience
totally
the world
does.
differently. My mom taught me something at a very young age, and it was there is always a solution. I had broken a toy. I was probably like 4 or 5 on my back, screaming and crying. And I remember this
Yeah.
is one of my very earliest moments. My mother standing over me, picking up my toy and being like, she's like just kind of shaking her head, annoyed. There's always a solution. And she picked me up and we fixed whatever was wrong with the toy. And I was just being like, oh, there's always a solution. And it comes from that background of, something is broken, something needs to be fixed, or this isn't working right. What do we do next to make it happen? And I think sometimes when we don't have everything at our disposal, it gives us the characteristics, the traits, the internal, just foi to
That's
make
right.
it happen. I want to learn a little bit more because we are talking about how you see the world based on how you grew up. Tell me a little more about that. How do you think how you grew up in the Dominican Republic and as a young girl has helped or hindered your professional career, and specifically in relation to going after promotions and pay raises and increasing your compensation?
Yes, absolutely. So you want to know how my upbringings and growing up may have either help or hinder my growth, my professional growth, and my compensation. And I would like to say that it's an unfair advantage over all of my counterparts that were, raised in first world countries, and it's something that I'm trying to work out with my own children as they grow in this country,
Mm,
because I believe that we come from countries that are extremely, there's a high level of machism. There's a high level of believing that perhaps women should be in the kitchen and giving birth only, etc. So without them knowing, they train us to be stronger and to trust our own confidence. What is confidence is not knowing what you're doing. And just by what you were saying, what your mom says, there's a solution for everything. The moment that you said it, I noticed that even there was a change in the pitch of your voice. And that change means assurance, means I know there is a solution for everything. And when you step into a country that has absolutely everything, you don't have to go around fixing toys like we used to. And sometimes I feel like sometimes fixing some for my children is like, oh, well, I forgot it's made in China. Now it's 50 cents.
Yeah.
um, but when we grow that way, we grow with confidence, knowing that there is a better tomorrow, that if I tried a little better, I will get to a solution, a result. There's always a way out. Um, there's a song that says, don't worry, be happy. And I would say, don't worry, be confident, because that's what we bring with us and that we bring to the table. Our differences, I believe, and I have experienced myself, instead of making me feel less, makes me feel richer. I remember in the days where my English was way poorer than it is today. And I kind of caught a glance of somebody kind of making fun of my,
Mm.
accent with one word that I said. And I look at him and I say, you know what? You're absolutely right. But believe me, if I were to say it to you in Spanish or in French or in Portuguese, my accent would be a lot stronger. So out
Mm.
of all of my language, this is the one that perhaps you can mock me the less because it's the only one you know.
Yes, I love that.
And I just realized that at a minimum, it makes us even more capable. And with capability comes confidence.
And I think that also though is a testament to just, who you are, and that it just seems very natural to you. So for me, and coming from the world of tech, I have gone through the #2 tech accelerator in the nation. Over 1,000 companies apply from around the world, and it's not even 1,000 people, 1,000
Wow.
companies. So those companies have many people. I didn't apply. I was offered a position into this tech accelerator, and I got there, and people would say, maybe you shouldn't wear high heels, or
Mm,
maybe you look too feminine. You should
mm,
wear some jeans and a t-shirt and put your hair back, and not wear makeup. And for me, it was very hammered into me
mm,
that your differences are, they're kind of a distraction, or they don't fit here. And
mhm,
but there was a
mhm.
time where I said, oh well, maybe I should try and do some of that. But for me, that made my confidence go down even lower, because it was this idea of, well, I got here being that person, and
That's
now
right.
you want me to change because that's supposed to help me go to the next level. And the little bit that I did, because I said, well, you know what, let me do this because they're trying to help me. It just took things in a very wrong direction. And there was one day I said, forget it. I put on some really cute pink suede heels. I had my outfit, just how I am and who I am. And I walked in, and everyone was just like, okay. And after that, it was just a difference. But for you, it just seems like you were just like, no, my differences are what are bringing things to the table, and they're making me stronger in confidence. And I admire that, because I had that experience that kind of really diminished this idea of who I am. And that was something that I had to, through a brief period, really overcome.
Yes, yes. So I hear you about the insecurities that may lead or that may arise out of being in teams that are not that familiar with diversity and would like everybody to look the same in a way, right? And I would like to say that perhaps what's at stake there is our inner tendency to compare ourselves.
Mm,
Al pueblo que fueres, hacer lo que vieres, in a way.
mm-hmm.
And what I would like to invite the people that is listening to this podcast that might see themselves feeling that same internal tug of war, or sometimes feeling an imposter syndrome. Oh, then this should be a position that shouldn't be for me. I'm in the wrong place. I'm here to suggest that if we stop comparing ourselves, then we find our place and our space in whatever team we are. You see, many of the times when people say those things to you, they're projecting their inability to perhaps wearing those cute shoes that you're having, and their own entanglement in their heads of, in order for you to succeed, you have to be this way. So there you go, to break your mold, be your own self, being free, and that can be intimidating. So instead of taking it in, it's almost like an invitation for them to free themselves as well and to be whoever they need to be. I doubt that everybody feels motivated and inspired to wear khaki and blue to the office every single day. So there's a kind of a training in there. So if we were to say, you know what, I didn't grow here in this country, or I didn't grow with that kind of background, therefore it is okay if I wear these. Now, I would say it's another part of negotiation. One is the salary, and another is your presence. There's two parts to negotiation. One comes at the very beginning, another one is after you start the job. And that negotiation with your presence has to be help them be comfortable around you. You see everybody with a ponytail, pay attention, put a ponytail. And then one day a week, leave it out. And then the following week, put it 2 days out. And then the third week, wear it one day curly. So negotiate with them, meet them where they are, and then go beyond. Be yourself. Don't try to get to a team and try to say, oh, I'm Latin and I'm Latina and everybody needs to accept me just the way they are.
Right.
Because it's almost like opening the door to the sun to somebody who has been in darkness all of their life. Is too much to take. So negotiate your presence until you feel you are in the right place.
And it's amazing to think that not only do we have to know how to do our jobs amazing and to surpass and excel our KPIs and make our clients happy, but then we also to think about going from perhaps an entry level to mid-level to the C-suite, have to be aware of all of these little negotiations and things that are going to help us move forward. And it's actually the perfect time to switch into a game that we have to just take a little breath. And this is a game of instinct. And it actually goes right into this, where promotions and pay raises and going up the ladder is made up of little situations that happen over the course of our career. It's not something that's like one day you're entry level and now great, you're ready to be, the SVP of a company. And so in this game, you're going to have 3 minutes. And I'm going to give you 3 scenarios where basically you're just going to have to tell us what you would do in each scenario. And the way that you win the game is just by completing all of the scenarios within 3 minutes. And this isn't something where, to take some time to think about it. It's like your instinct. Like, what would you do right away? The first thing that comes to mind. So that way we can get you to reach your pay destiny and complete all of them in 3 minutes. Sound
That's
good?
exciting. Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to give you 3 hypothetical situations. None of these have ever happened, of course, in your career. And we just want to know how you would handle them. So let me get my timer going so that way we make sure we're being fair.
Sure.
That's my calculator.
Are you going to use a Latino clock?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start the clock and we're just going to go through these 3 scenarios, and I will do my best to make sure I actually practice these just for you to make sure I would get through them fast. So here we go.
Okay.
On our marks, get set, go. Scenario 1. You have been with your company for 1.5 years and you're exceeding every expectation. Someone was just hired with the same job description. You find out they're paid 10% more than you. What do you do?
I would approach the manager or whoever, and I would ask him what is the difference in terms of KPIs or performance, and what do I need to do to be at her level.
Love it. All right. Scenario 2, your boss gets promoted. They are part of the team to decide who will replace them. Your coworker is less experienced and often misses deadlines, but they frequently spend time socially outside of work with your boss, and they are invited to apply for the promotion. You are not. What do you do?
I find out who's the hiring manager and what are they looking for, and if there's any possibility that I would be considered. If it's something that it was arranged, there's no need for me to be wasting my time. If it's something that comes from the boys club, there's no need for me to ruffle anybody's feathers because they won't give it to me. Then after that, I would see what is necessary or what do I need to do to get promoted in the next occasion. And in the meantime, provide the support and say, I'm here to help to whoever gets chosen in the meantime.
Wow. Pro. All right. Scenario 3, you work on a team of all men and your company is acquired. The new leadership is also all men. Your boss says they need to restructure the department to fit the new management style. This restructuring includes demoting you, but you get to keep your salary because you've been doing a great job. No one else is demoted. What do you do?
I find another place to go before the motion gets official so that I can take advantage of the position that I am in and then I can continue jumping higher. I'm a climber.
Wow. And we still have time left to spare, all three. You definitely got to your pay destiny with 42 seconds left to spare. And those are just your raw instincts in these situations. And thank you for playing that game. It's something that I found with Pay Destiny. People are asking questions and saying, well, this is happening or this is happening. And, what do I do? And unfortunately, there is no right or wrong answer
No.
because there's so many different variables and politics and personalities and, things behind the table that might have been happening as part of the boys club agreement. But I am so excited by everything that you just shared in this game, because I think that there are going to be women who are listening who are going to say, you know what? I'm going to put that back here so in case something happens, and it's just going to become hopefully their instinct as well. So thank you for playing that game with 42 seconds left to spare.
Thank you. It was fun. You could have thrown three more.
I really could have. So we have just a little bit of time left, and about 10-15 minutes. I want to ask you a few questions basically about your top 3 do's and don'ts for someone who is looking to get a promotion and a pay raise. Based on all of your experience, what would you advise someone as the top 3 things they must do, and the 3 things that you're like, do never do this because you will be putting your career behind?
Yes, the 3 don'ts, I would start there, is number 1, do not feel entitled to anything. Do not think that they owe you. That is the same number 1. Number 2 is do not compare yourself. Do not start looking around at who's there, who are achieve what. Focus in your own things. And number 3, do not keep quiet. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. With grace, start to say your points of view. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree respectfully? And start giving your opinion without getting attached to whether they follow, whether they respect it or not. It's your gift to them. If they don't want to, use it, is their own loss. And at the same time, that gives you practice. It makes you even a better employee. Those are the 3 don'ts. So do not compare, do not get entitled, do not keep yourself quiet. And then the 3 do's is do negotiate. And when you think that you are, don't negotiate some more. There's always some room, whether on the salary, whether on vacations, I mean, golden parachute, whatever it is, wherever you work, negotiate until you have brought them to the brink of saying, you're, you have been the toughest negotiation we've had in this company so far. Like until you get there, and do so with grace. Um, Another do is bring all that you have to offer, become essential, become somebody that they can depend, become the person they can go to, become the person that is there to help, not to help you, but to help your team. Think collective, to help your boss to shine, to help the boss of your boss to shine. Sometimes they also need that. And number three, do keep your boundaries at all times. Work and life. It's okay if one day you need to give in because there's a transaction, because there's somebody got sick and you need to pull it in. But make sure that you keep your boundaries just like you would do on any relationship that's worth keeping and preserving from the very first day.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that. So I have a couple of more questions before we wrap up. Thinking back about everything that you've experienced and what you know now, what is the one lesson that you learned and maybe had to learn the hard way that you wish you knew now or
Yes,
wish you knew then?
I think I took time for granted. I think that there were things I wanted that I left for later. There were studies that I wish I would have um, gotten got to them earlier instead of saying I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I have my plate full. I think that I would have found a way to be also more involved and mentor more when I could. Now I coach, which is different, but mentor more from inside so that I can open the door and allowed the Latinas that are underneath to be also seen, to be heard, far exceeding the diversity committees, which is another conversation. This is pretty much like a professional outlook
Yeah.
from within.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So basically, giving yourself permission to do more of the things that you wanted to do, whether it was helping other young women or advancing your own personal knowledge is something that you would have, done earlier on in your career. So thinking about where you started, everything that you know now, what is your next career goal? What is your next pay destiny?
I'm very happy with coaching people right now, and I am in the process of writing a book on confidence and imposter syndrome and negative thinking and all that
Mm.
from the perspective of a professional who has been on the ranks. I think that I would like to be more vocal to help more teams to understand what it takes to succeed and to succeed in a way that is fulfilling, not only
Mm.
empty, not fake success, but real success. And to do so through my own experience and my own learnings and my own ability to teach as a result. Um, I would love to see a lot more Latinas being offered positions and to be able to cross pollinate uh, corporate America, startups. Um, yeah, I think I'd like to continue being somebody who enables that and allows that somehow.
So growing basically your coaching business and making more, helping and empowering other women, and then also writing your book, which I'll be very excited to get a copy of whenever that is available. So tell me, how do people listening today get in touch with you? Where can they follow you? And we'll definitely make sure that we put those links available, websites, that type of stuff. So share a little bit about that with us.
Yes, absolutely. So I have been so busy coaching, and I mean back to back to back, day in and day out, that I have not have a lot of time to organize myself socially. And I am starting to work on my website again and put it up to speed. So I do have a website, is Inner Power Solutions. Is quite a shell still, and I can be reached by a telephone number I have provided to you, or by my Instagram and my Twitter and Clubhouse handle, which is Total Inner Power. Um, and so far, that's how I am out there.
Perfect. And I have no doubt that that website is going to be growing and becoming more available to people. But we have that phone number and that email and all of those handles available that we'll make sure that anyone listening who wants to get in touch with you has the ability to do so. I want to thank you, Amelia, for being a guest on the PayDestiny podcast, where we are helping women and underrepresented professionals who are ambitious and hungry to get that promotion, that pay raise, and reach their career goals to be able to do so. And thank you for sharing your experiences. I look forward to staying in touch with you and cheering you on. I'm sure we'll be in touch. We're probably going to have to do maybe like a master's game of all of the guests together with the scenarios or something like that, something fun later on down the road. But thank you so much for being a part of PayDestiny today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. What you're doing for our community is just priceless. So very honored to be here, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the PayDestiny podcast. Make sure to head over to paydestiny.com and enter your email to get notifications for every future episode of the PayDestiny podcast. There, you can also create your free account to access tools that'll help you get a promotion, get a pay raise, and reach your career goals. I'm Adriana Herrera, your PayDestiny podcast host and founder of PayDestiny. Thank you for being with us today, and I look forward to having you back here for another episode of the PayDestiny podcast. Until then, be well and take care.